Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. Is this thing on? I didn't update the ticker. I just realized that. I didn't update the ticker. So we're going to turn it off. Problem solved. Hey there, Malcontents. This here is the Malcontent. Today is Monday, August 9, 2021. This is America. There is a ton to go into, so we're just going to go into it. I'm glad you can hear me. Hello, Oregon. Hello, Courtney, and hello, friends. Again, glad y'all can hear me. Why is my thingy? Yeah, why is that? I shouldn't be doing that. Just adjusting something here real quick. There's a ton to cover. I need to get some sleep. I had a really busy-ass day today, and we just have a ton of stuff I want to cover. I'm kind of holding off because we're letting audience build right now. I can see we probably haven't the servers probably haven't hit every channel. If you see me looking down, I can see the number here, and I'm seeing we're on 3 of 4. This is a good time to go ahead and spam those hearts. Spam those hearts. Convince people that there's something actually worthwhile to watch here. It's been a little busy today. Shelly, what's up? Ursinate, what's up? All right, I think the number is what it is. My chair's not behaving. Let's start off by talking about Eileen Cure. If you don't know who Eileen Cure is, Karen, Aunt Karen on TikTok, is a creator over there. She has over 1 million followers. And Aunt Karen's tagline is, "The devil works hard, but we work harder." And Aunt Karen has made it her mission over at TikTok to kind of have a thing where the racist of the day is. And Eileen Cure from Nederland, Texas, earned herself a ticket on the racist of the day train about 2 weeks ago. And this became a bit of a news story. Eileen Cure, one of her own employees, outed her in a Reddit because, oh, wow, a sub-streak of 5 months. Wow. By the way, blue is your color. Thank you, Shelley. I'm partial to purple, as everybody knows. Eileen Cure was outed by one of her employees for admonishing her team for sending her a black candidate for a job opening and saying that she will not hire anybody who is black. Now, There's kind of some federal laws that say you can't say stuff like that, certainly not put it in writing. Eileen Kear's reaction is actually out of the gate what you would expect from somebody who is a bad case of white privilegeitis, which is to blame everybody but herself. It's being perceived wrong. This is just going to blow over. And yeah, it didn't just blow over because in large part, Eileen just kept digging herself a hole. Eileen then went on the offensive, going after Aunt Karen, saying that she was going to sue her essentially for defamation, that the picture that Aunt Karen used, she had no permission to use in the picture. Eileen learned very quickly that that's not how the world works because basically every news publication was using the picture also. And then things kind of took a little bit of a darker turn. LPL was the company that Eileen Kear was attached to. She was an advisor with LPL, but she had her own kind of bookkeeping financial advisor firm that had a number of hats. And so she didn't work like for LPL, but she is, and it wasn't like a franchise, but think of it like a franchise, and not a franchise, but think of it that way. LPL did their own internal investigation and yanked their business agreement with her, which of course is no good. And then she was like, LPL has an incomplete story and they don't know the real truth. And, again, basically I'm going to sue them too. It's amazing. It was just every time she had a rock lair, she dug more. She just kept digging more. It was stunning. And then one of the other things too is her employees started quitting. So then she put out this public notice that any employee who quits, she's going to not give them a good reference, going to give them a bad reference. This too is going to pass, and puts it all out in writing in the public. This is what I mean by she just keeps digging a hole. And then it takes a real sinister turn. In a TV interview, Eileen's husband threatens to kill Aunt Karen. Now, this is Texas, and so if nothing was going to happen with this thread, but Aunt Karen felt compelled to leave her home, go into hiding, and a GoFundMe was set up to help her get technology and stuff. And Aunt Karen's posted some videos of herself at the gun range, learning how to use a gun. Liberals own guns. Well, there's more now to this story because Eileen's office has been closed in Nederland, Texas, and the building is up for sale, despite the fact that she said, you'll see, all this is going to pass. All this is not passed. Come on, Eileen. So there you go. This was Nederland, Texas. Her name is Eileen Kear, not to be confused with The Cure. I'm sure I can just yank her. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's do this. Ta-da. There she is. And let me turn off the ticker. There she is. That's Eileen Kear. Here's the headline. Financial advisor fired for alleged no black comments exposed in TikTok video. This story is from August 5. This has since evolved from no to just there it is. So, yeah. So, here's another story on this topic. Just goes into the legal ramifications and stuff. I mean, it's not the thing you want to be blowing up on the internet for, right? Courtney, she looks exactly how I imagined. No way I would for The Cure. Anyway, we'll start off again with Eileen Kear. Next thing that I want to talk about, over on our Twitter channel, we have shared a link, which is Malcontentment Tea for our Twitter channel. Angelica, I want to make sure, I don't know if they have her full name, so give me just 1 second here. Yeah, Angelica's only releasing her first name. She was interviewed in the KUOW interview. She is one of 2 women that came forward and accused Raz Simone of sexual assault. Last year, there was a lot hanging around Raz Simone's neck on that. There is a GoFundMe that has been set up to help Angelica because she is homeless right now. So there is, again, if you go to our Twitter, it's this, and then there's, meaning this feed, and then there is the GoFundMe information that's over there. So if you've got the resources, please consider putting some money in there. Man, Texas, like, things are insane in Texas. So we're going to keep talking about, because Eileen Cure was Texas, we're going to keep talking a little bit about Texas. Last week, Greg Abbott announced he was going to call another special session of the Texas legislature to try to pass this really restrictive voting bill in that state. Bail reform, which basically is no cash bail, which basically then means if you are poor, then you're just going to sit in jail. And they can't call the legislature together. It isn't because the Democrats are hiding out. This was just like another play to do this. And there's an update on that story. So many Republican legislatures in Texas right now have COVID or are in a mandatory quarantine for being exposed to COVID that there isn't enough Republican legislatures that even if the Democrats showed up, they couldn't call a quorum. You can't make this up. You can't make this up. So that's number 1 in Texas. Number 2 thing that's happened in Texas is that a judge has said the warrants for the arrests of the Democrats throughout the state are illegal and they can't be arrested, paving the way for them to potentially return to the state anyway. So that's the number 2 thing going on in Texas. Greg Abbott's kind of having a bad day today. Greg Abbott today put an ask to all of the hospitals in the state of Texas. And what he's asked the hospitals in the state of Texas to do is to stop doing elective procedures so they can free up some more beds for people that have COVID. No mask mandate, no strong guidance, nothing like that. No. And by the way, Texas over the weekend surpassed New York, moving into the number 2 spot for the most deaths of any state for COVID in the country. Bravo, Texas, bravo. Maybe you'll be great at that too, if you can just keep racking things up over there. So yeah, just stop the elective surgeries and stuff like that, and then we can accommodate some more COVID patients because things are bad. Nothing about, because school's starting there, so nothing about, maybe students should wear masks or maybe school districts should reconsider things. No. None of that. Just dial back on the elective procedures. So much winning. Great way to own the libs. Wow. It's just wow. On our Facebook yesterday, there's a post from last night. And it is highlighting an individual whose name is David Cruz. David Cruz, Wichita Falls, Texas, lives in Corpus Christi. He's currently hospitalized in Wichita Falls, Texas. There are links, if you go to our Facebook page, to a series of videos. The first video is David Cruz, who is 38 years old, father of 3, married, on Padre Island, which is Corpus Christi, if you're not familiar. It's a beautiful spot for Father's Day weekend. A lot of people there. And let's remember, Father's Day weekend, end of June, a lot of us were like, we're over the COVID hump. Yay! So no taking points off for them. On July 7th, and I'm also not saying that he got COVID at the beach. It's important to view him as a human being, to see that video with him on the beach of Corpus Christi. He tested positive for COVID on July 7. He ended up hospitalized on July 14. He made his first video of himself on TikTok on July 14. There's another video that we didn't link to, which is on July 15. There's an individual that made a comment on his July 14 video that said, basically, I don't believe you unless you die. So he made a response video to that on July 15. The person that made that comment's been blocked from TikTok, and I'm sure they probably have already set up 4 more accounts because that's how people like that work. On July 22, no. I want to make sure I get these dates right. He made a total of 5 videos in the hospital. The last video he made was on July 22. In that video, he's gone from high-pass oxygen to BiPAP. So he looks like he's wearing a CPAP mask. It's not CPAP, it's BiPAP. The next line of defense after BiPAP is going on a ventilator. The next line of defense for a ventilator is to go on ECMO. There had been no video since 7/22. His wife put a comment that on 7/25 he was put on life support. Now, if you're not familiar with TikTok, you only have like 150 characters to make a comment. So it's extremely difficult to get into like what do the details mean of that. Last night, his wife made a video on his account, and we linked to that video. David Cruz, 38, veteran, father of 3, who did not get vaccinated. And on his July 22nd video, before basically he became so sick that he had no longer was able to make any more videos, basically told people, you don't want this, you need to get vaccinated. She made a video yesterday saying that he needs ECMO treatment. And there is no ECMO equipment in Wichita Falls, Texas, where they are located. And there were people in the comments that were like, have you checked this hospital, that hospital? The reality is, because then further down in her comments is, she can't pick up the phone and go, hey, I've got a husband and I need to get her, him, I should say, ECMO treatment. This has to be handled through the social workers and the hospitals. Here's the reality of ECMO, because I did some looking this up before I got on the air tonight. If the doctors come to you and say, your loved one needs to go on ECMO, ECMO is beyond the last line of defense. When you go on ECMO, what that basically means is your lungs are no longer functioning and your heart can't do its job. So think of ECMO as essentially bypassing. It's not a full bypass, because a full bypass machine, you can't be on that long, but it basically is designed to help circulate your blood and oxygenate it to give your heart and lungs a break, for a very layman's way to describe this, in an attempt to help them heal. If they're coming to you and saying you need to go, or your loved one needs to go on ECMO, your chances of dying if you don't get on ECMO have exceeded 80%. So you're in a state of crisis at that point. The next thing is, because I looked this up, there were some initial reviews that had come out early in COVID that said ECMO didn't do anything. There were some, and then I found there were some deeper studies. There was one study with 492 patients. Understand, this isn't something that you can kind of go, hey, we're just going to put people on ECMO for the hell of it and have a control group, and we'll see if this works or not. And the other thing you have to understand too, a lot of hospitals don't have an ECMO machine. This is really advanced Star Wars life support. If you go on ECMO, your survival rate is about 31%. If you're suffering from ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, and essentially if you have COVID and you go on ECMO, you've got ARDS. That's essentially what it comes down to. So David Cruz, father of three, is in a really, really bad way. That was the second appeal that I saw in 15 minutes of a spouse looking for ECMO for a loved one. The other challenge you have with ECMO is it isn't just the machine. When a person is on ECMO, they require a team of people to kind of keep turning the dials, metaphorically speaking. You don't put this person in a human warehouse on a machine and go like this. And it's all preventable. It's just all preventable. And the thing that I'm just, if you spend any time on social, you're just seeing more and more people in these southern states that are going, I'd wish I got the vax. I'd wish I'd done this. I'd wish I had done this. I'd wish I'd done this. And it's a parade of it. And we had talked about this. When did did I dive into the number? I guess I talked about that on Saturday night. We did talk about it because I dove into those numbers. By the way, we're going to go into Washington State numbers next. Just wow. The Washington State numbers they're wow. They're just, it's not good when we go into the Washington State numbers. There's just so many people now. They're going, I wish I would. And we talked about this on Saturday night, and we did a really late night stream on Saturday, probably a lot of people didn't see. There is a fair amount of evidence in the data when you look at the people who are vaccinated and people who are partially vaccinated in Washington State, that what's going on with Delta is motivating people, even in low vaccination counties, to go, I should probably get vaccinated. Shell, the numbers are so bad in Washington State. And let me switch things over here so we can kind of go into how bad things are in Washington State. So here, this is the first thing that we've got pulled up here. So what we're looking at is the rate per 100,000 of newly diagnosed, confirmed, and probable cases over 2 weeks. This is a 2-week rolling average, which is the best way to look at this data. Because when you look at a 2-week rolling average, it's taking out not as many people got tested on a Sunday because it was a Sunday. And all of the data that came in on Tuesday was Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So you got this unusual spike. It evens all of that out by looking at things on a 14-day rolling average. And that's why they start doing it. So we're at 245.6 per 100,000 new cases, meaning 245.6 new cases per 100,000 people in the state of Washington. That number should be below 25. We are literally an order of magnitude higher than where we should be. Now, if you look here, you're probably going, what's this little outlier counter here? What's going on in Garfield County? Yes, Garfield County has 0 cases. They are also the most sparsely populated county in Washington State. They have 2,225 people more, 2,225 people in the entire county. So because it is a very rural county, and by default, the population is essentially social distancing, and this county really doesn't have like Walmarts and stuff like. So yeah, the numbers are really low here. Because there isn't a lot here, because they're going into some of these other counties. I'm going to show you some really chilling numbers. This here is, I can't pronounce this, Wakakiam County. If I said that wrong, I apologize. They're at 332.5. That's nothing. All right. That's nothing. Let's go to Franklin County. Franklin County is at 817.5. And at 817.5, they're about as bad as Ferry County was at its worst during Ferry County's major super spreader event. Ferry County did get up to over 1,000, so they're getting there. Next door over in Benton County, 723.9. All right, the next one we want to look at, percent of positive tests. Statewide, we're now up to 10.5%. The target set by the state is below 2%. If you're between 3 to 5%, that means things are under control and you are adequately testing. If you are below 3%, that means it's really under control. You actually may even over testing a little bit. And we were, as a state, we were way below. We were down below 2% at one point. If you're from 5 to 7%, think of that as like the yellow light. That's kind of like, you haven't got to kind of where it's 1-to-1 in the spread, but you're not where you want to be. It's not good. Once you get to 7 to 9.9%, it's like it's spreading. Now it is spreading. Once you get over to 10%, you're into community transmission. So we're at 10.5% statewide. Let me show you some percentages here. That same county, the one I can't pronounce, they're at 35%. That means for every 100 COVID tests they're giving, 35 are coming back positive. When you're this high, this is this is really bad. This is really bad. This is complete out of control transmission, and this is way under testing. So this county here is a time bomb. Clark County, which by the way has been doing really well. Clark County has more than doubled since the last update. Clark County is now at 22.5%. Same thing, out of control, widespread transmission. But wait a minute, because Benton County is going to say, hold my beer and watch this. 35.7%. Oh, and like I'm seeing people here going 35% question mark. Oh, no. Franklin County, they're at 39%. For every 39 COVID tests they do, 100 are coming back positive. Of course, we live here in King County. King County is at 7.2%. So remember what I said. If you roll over that 7% threshold, it's starting, it's if it was a car, it's time to pull over. Think of it that way, right? There's no ignoring. What's that sound? If you're under 7%, it's what's that sound? I need to get that checked out. We're at 7.2%. Snohomish County, they're over 10%. Pierce County is at 16.3%. Some of these numbers have literally doubled from over the weekend. Even Island County, which is outside of the one outlier of Garfield, is at 5.7%. Also, one reminder on Garfield, they've done two tests in they've done two tests on the through the period, which is July 26th through August 1, and both tests have come back 0. I believe this is Spokane County. They're at 15.9%. And then I believe, if I remember my geography, I believe Bellingham's where Skagit is, 7.4%. Whatcom County at 7.1%. I can't see the Canadian border staying open long. All right, let's go to the next one. 82.5% of all beds, hospital beds for acute care, non-ICU, are in use in the state of Washington right now. That actually has gotten a little better. In what is called the West District, which includes Pierce County, they're at 87.4%. It's not good. King County is at 85.5%. It's kind of held the line. And where Snohomish County up north is, they're in better shape. They're at 77.8%. If we go out west, Spokane County, they're at 83.9%. Staffed acute care beds, 8.8% of everybody in acute care has got COVID in the state of Washington. So we have 808 patients in the state of Washington COVID. That is data through August 8th. So that's data through yesterday. Here's ICU. ICU's bad. This is really bad. 18.2% of all patients in ICU are being treated for COVID. They have 1,215 beds that are occupied. 221 of those have COVID. That is actually starting to approach our winter record. We're not there. We've got to add about 70 or 80 more people with COVID. And I see nothing that's going to stop that number from rolling higher. The other thing is on this, there are 220 ICU beds left in the state of Washington as of yesterday. That's an improvement from 202. How do we know that? Well, it says right here, adult ICU staff beds, 1,215. The beds occupied, 995. Statewide, we're at we're at one more time. Sorry, we're at 82%, 81.9. King County's at 81.2%. That's an improvement. It's actually it's improved a lot. West, which is Pierce County, they're at 88%. So Pierce County is close to tapped out. North is at 76.6. If we go into the South Central District where Benton County is and all, they're at 90.4. If we go out to Spokane, they're at 81.6, which actually, again, is an improvement. Southwest is at 71.4 because, again, Clark County's numbers in particular, that's where Vancouver is, have been pretty good. And the clock is kind of run out there. And then if we go here into the Central, they are at 80% occupied. But I believe what it says is they have only a total of 16 beds. So of the 20 beds, 16. Like if you look right here, you can see the numbers. So in this north, there's 137 ICU beds total, 105 were occupied. 442 ICU beds in King County, 359 are occupied. So about half of the available beds in the state of Washington are here. So oh, geez. More than 24 COVID-19 cases lead to suspension of Law Enforcement Academy. CJ, actually, vaccination rate in the state is going up, and we have that up on our website on a news story up on malcontentnews.com. And, yeah, keyboard falls asleep. There it is. And what I think is going on is because they're going up statewide, and I think that people are getting motivated to do this. If you're looking at these and going, wait a minute, that says 209. Yeah, because that was on Saturday. So I have receipts. We were at 209.9 on Saturday. We're at 245.6 on Monday. We were at 16.7% on Saturday. We're at 18.2 today. We were at 8.5%. Positive on Saturday. It's gone up 19% in 48 hours. But here are the receipts that I've got. So if you look at the number that are fully vaccinated, San Juan County, by the way, this percentage of fully vaccinated is for full population. So this isn't 12 and above. This is everybody in the county, in that county. So they are the most vaccinated county, County San Juan. And there are actually, that should be Island. I believe that's a typo. 72.86, partial and fully vaccinated, 77.94. So you're seeing this, right, 4-5% jump between, right, for people who have, say, gotten their first poke in the last couple of weeks. And I don't know how well you can see these numbers. Probably on a computer you could see them well, and on a phone it probably just looks like ants. It's the same thing as you go. So even if I go all the way down here to Garfield County, I can make this bigger. So even if I go all the way down here to Garfield County and scroll it out of the comments so you can actually see Garfield, they are only 25% vaccinated. Total vaccination, they're at 28-1 partial vaccination. So you're seeing, and Stevens 26.46, partial's 29%. So these people that are partial, these are people who have been vaxxed in the last 1 day to 2 to 3 weeks. So there is movement across the state. And I would say if people are on the fence, should I, shouldn't I don't know. I'm getting concerned, but I'm not sure. I think you got about 4 or 6 more weeks before it's going to get bad. I'm not, in some ways I feel like I'm back in early March but we didn't have this intel. We didn't have this. We didn't have these charts and numbers and all of this tracking data. If this was April and these were the numbers, the state would be in either phase 1 or phase 2. That's kind of where we're at right now. And of course, we're going, please wear a mask. Now, there is some action that's going on. Jay Inslee announced today that all state employees and healthcare employees will have to get vaccinated by October 18th or face termination. King County has said the same thing. City of Seattle said the same thing. King County is the only county. City of Seattle is the only town, city, community that has said we're going to do the same thing that the governor is doing for state employees. Seattle Police Officers Guild is saying that Jenny Durkin can't mandate this, that this is part of our contract and collective bargaining. And most of us are vaccinated anyway, and so what does it matter? And we've had low infection rates. And Lindsay, that's not what I said. That's not what I said, Lindsay. I said that the number that was there for Island County was 72.8%, 72.86% of people are vaccinated, and that 72.86% number represents the entire population of Island County. It doesn't just represent people 12 and over, because if you're 11 and under, you can't get vaccinated. Because if you do 12 and over for Island County, they're well over 80% vaccinated. So I that's what I said. So I don't know where you would have got that I said that everyone in Island County is vaccinated, because that isn't true, but they are the most vaccinated county. They will almost certainly be the first county to get to, over 85%, if they're not there at the point that I'm saying this right now, and probably one of the few counties that could maybe get to 90%. Yeah, I saw that about New Orleans. That was canceling all of that. Yeah, and I'm sure people are going to use the exemption to get out of stuff, but the way that they've worded it, is a bona fide exemption. So we'll see what bona fide exemption means. The other thing that's come out is the Pentagon has said that all of U.S. forces in the U.S. military need to get vaccinated. And if you've kind of noticed, this announcement came out with a whimper. There was a lot of this was building up. I talked about this before, about just like anybody who's gone through BMT already knows. And then there were people that were throwing out arguments. And I'm like, anybody who was like, they're all going to leave the military, they should all go away. Well, these are people that don't come from military families. They haven't served in the military. They don't friggin' get it. Um, you basically, you're about signing your body away when you sign that contract with the military. And as I have pointed out, the anthrax vaccine is required in U.S. Central Command, in Korea, and in about 15 other zones around the world. And the anthrax vaccine is only emergency authorized by the FDA. It does not have full approval by the FDA. So people in the military already been poked with stuff that they don't even know. And that's what a lot of people in the military are going to tell you anyway. And the Pentagon released some really important numbers. There are 1.4 million active duty members of the U.S. military. Of those 1.4 million members, over a million, slightly over a million, are fully vaccinated already. 237,000 are partially vaccinated. So you have 237,000 people who had their first dose in, 1 day to 2 or 3 weeks ago. So in another 2 to 4 weeks, you'll have that group of 237,000 fully vaccinated. The reality is there's only about 150,000 people in the military, about 10%, who aren't vaccinated. And yeah, there's going to be that are going to be like, it ain't happening. And when you don't follow orders, there's consequences for not following orders. And there is a strong precedent that this is a legal order that needs to be compliant on vis-a-vis if you read up on the anthrax injections. And yeah, I know there's was anthrax called the Gulf War syndrome? There's they don't know what has caused Gulf War syndrome. And so you can just go down 100 different rabbit holes depending on which story that you want to do there. So, wow, 2 close relatives in the military, and they refused so far. They tried to tell parents not to get vaccinated, but they did it anyway. And one is a recruiter. Well, Dora, all I could say is fuck around and find out, right? I mean, that's what it just comes down to. Well, River and Ravens National Guard is different than active duty military. As a Cold War kid, and when I know I'm not a boomer, but I think people don't realize that Gen X, right? We were Cold War kids. We grew up watching. What was that awful? It wasn't I don't know. I watched. I remember watching it, and I'm like, I mean, I get it. Nuclear war is terrible, but this movie hasn't exactly scared me into action. The Day After Tomorrow. I always get the global warming movie and this one mixed up. I guess it's The Day After Tomorrow, and I don't know what the global warming movie was. I think it's like The Day After Tomorrow or something. Anyway, we grew up watching The Day After Tomorrow and Threads. By the way, if you want to see a movie that'll just be like, I won't ever live through a nuclear war. Oh my God, watch Threads. And if you watch Threads, like, have somebody you can call up afterwards, because you just be like, I need to talk to someone. Threads was terrifying. PBS, Boston and PBS Channel 2, they played Threads maybe a few months after The Day After Tomorrow. I watched Threads, and Threads just left me like, oh my God. With the nuke that goes to widescreen. Yeah, and like even for the 1980s made-for-TV movie, the bad special effects with people being vaporized, like bad, and where all he did was just basically turn the image into a negative. That was their special effects. They should have negotiated for a few $100,000 more at that point. Anyway, where was I going? Oh, so as a Cold War kid, I'm of the view of the opinion that if you're in the military, you're going to want to have everything that's going to give you an edge when and if you have to do your military stuff. And I always like to remind people we had an entire aircraft carrier go mission ineffective, and it essentially knocked out an entire carrier battle group last year. So let's not forget that. I can guarantee you that probably what you will see, because I don't believe that Pentagon order applied, right? Because National Guard is the states, and they report up to the state governors. So vaccine mandates are going to have to come up, as I understand it, through those state governors. And so, Texas, they're not going to, you kidding me? They're not going to do any of that stuff. Oh, Pam, it's no problem. It shouldn't be politicized, and I also agree here. You're nodding along over here, laughing and not. Yeah, this it's really great if you're Gen X or older, and you grew up in this Cold War era. I think your overall view of the military now, and I will say, you could have grown up in this Cold War era and go, oh my God, the military made things worse in Afghanistan, basically caused a problem in Iraq, totally destabilized Somalia, really screwed up Latin America, right? You should have never been in Vietnam. You can embrace all of that. And I think you could still be of the viewpoint, we need a strong military. And I think that is something very generational for Gen X and above. And I think as you go to millennial and below, because millennial and below did not grow up with the specter of of nuclear annihilation like Gen X and older did. And like for Gen X, it was real. It was real for us, because for boomers and the greatest generation, they lied to them. They had civil defense. They made movies, and there wasn't really television. You would go to the movies, and before you watched the main movie, they would play these other movies, and the government made movies where like they literally would have famous actors and actresses going, we're out here in New Mexico, in Nevada, and they're going to set off an atomic bomb. And they have put out like you can find this on YouTube, and it's like, and they've put out like all these food items and stuff out to see how the radiation is going to affect it. And then they set off the atomic bomb, and they show the explosion, and they show all the stuff it does. And then it's like, but soldiers who were even just 1,500 feet away were okay because they were in a trench and the blast went over them. So it's all good. And here, look at all this food stuff. It's all good. And then they're like sitting at the table outside, eating food, prepared with the sand and the dust that's blowing around. I mean, look, John Wayne may have been a racist piece of crap, but essentially John Wayne died of lung cancer because of exposure to radioactive fallout, along with many people that were on this movie. And it's the worst movie of John Wayne's career, to add insult to injury, because there was an atomic test that kind of and didn't go well, went bad. And this is what they showed to the boomers and the greatest generation. And they had civil defense, and they did civil defense drills, and they convinced them, oh, you can survive this. And then after around the Cuban Missile Crisis, a few years after that, the military planners were like, this whole civil defense thing is a joke. And they just ended it. So basically for Gen Xers, we were basically just taught, you're fucked. If the Pentagon or the Kremlin decides, that's it, we've had it with your asses, take that, your nut meats. Just hope you're close to a strategic target. That's going to be how you should be looking at this right now. There was like no belief that you would survive a nuclear war. Get under the desk, Lindsay. Yeah, I'm looking at the comments, and I can see the people that were raised either as Cold War boomers are Cold War Gen X. We weren't even told to get under the desk. And then I grew up in an era, as probably a lot of people in Gen X, where they would do the air raid siren once a week. This was part of the readiness, this leftover of the Cold War. They would run. I grew up the first 20 plus years of my life to an air raid siren going off once a week. And as we became more consciously aware of it, like the air raid siren would go off and like you didn't ignore it, because then you're like, okay, waiting for the all clear now. All clear is going to come about 60, 90 seconds later. Oh, the siren's going again. That's the all clear. Okay. It was just the test. Oh, I could. Yeah. Yeah. See, people are saying this. You remember this stuff. Oh, totally. Yeah, I saw Challenger. I was actually homesick for the day, but I saw it on TV at home. Anyway, I've gone on this long tangent. The point is, generationally, Gen X and older have this concept of you need a strong national defense. That is not to say that Gen X and older just blindly accept that the military should do whatever the hell the military wants. No. You can certainly be anti-U.S. policy, but believe that you need to have a strong national defense. And I think, again, that this is a part of upbringing, propaganda, because the reality is Russia was never the threat, which we've learned well after the Cold War. Russia was never the threat that it was portrayed to be. It was grossly overstated. That isn't to say that the concept of a global thermonuclear war was an impossibility. Mutually assured destruction worked and continues to work today. I know that like when Trump started running in 2015 and him and some of the advisors were walking back this concept of mutually assured destruction and were positioning nuclear weapons as like, maybe a tactical situation. It's like, there is no such thing as limited nuclear war. There is no such thing as tactical situations. There is no good to come from having a policy of ambiguity versus a policy of, right, we will not shoot first, which goes back to that mutually assured destruction. And there were some people in Trump's orbits that view was, well, what's the point of having nuclear weapons if you never use them? It's like, but that's actually the point of the nuclear weapons. You don't want to use them. The point is, I've gone way off the rails on military and all that. They're going to get vaxxed. The ones that don't get vaxxed, it's going to weed out. I think this is going to weed out some of the bad elements in the military. And I think there are some bad elements in the military. Next thing I want to talk about, there was a story that came out, South Seattle Emerald. This is a really important story. We shared this on Twitter. My keyboard's asleep again. My favorite keyboard died, and I'm using a really crappy keyboard on this computer right now. They have a really important story, which is actually, wow, they had a lot of stories today. I'm going to go ahead and pull this one up. They produced a lot of content today. This is an important read. OIG auditor resigns, claims OIG put OPA allegiances over police accountability. So an OIG auditor has resigned and is basically acting as a whistleblower to say that the OIG, the Office of the Inspector General, is right. Anybody's been watching the OPA investigations, Meyerberg comes out with these wishy-washy statements. And there's like, what the hell? What's the point of the OPA if you keep coming back going, we ain't got nothing, right? Dora, we'll talk about Bangor. You're going to rope me back into Cold War talk here in a second. OIG auditor has resigned because basically what they're saying, the Office of the Inspector General is letting the OPA punt on investigations with the Seattle Police Department, and they're just letting it happen. So yeah, I'm not a Meyerberg fan at all, and this is a pretty damning report. And the other thing that we kind of know from different investigations is, there's a lot of things that the OPA is positioned on many cases of we would like to do something, but we can't, so we're not. And we should really do this, but I have no authority to do that. So it is interesting what the OIG auditor is here. So that is southseattleemerald.com. You will have to, you know what, actually, let me do that. We'll just do this. Boom. This is like total old school. I just dropped the link in the comments. This is like total old school. If you didn't see, I can't show the video clips. Let me tell you what's going on. I think the Chuds have found our YouTube channel. I think they're mass reporting everything on our YouTube channel. The good news is nothing's been pulled down. We've had nothing pulled down. We are getting a ton of content on our YouTube channel, age restricted. And we've been going, why are you age restricting this? There's been some things where it's like, there was one, and it's still actually investigation, because when I filed the appeal, I'm like, we literally showed the same body cam footage. I didn't wrote it better than this. We literally showed the same body cam footage that every mainstream news channel in Seattle showed. Oh, and by the way, here is the link to the video that we pulled that was released by the Seattle Police Department that is on their YouTube channel, and it's not age restricted. So I don't know if I'm also not, I don't, was not my intent to get a bunch of Seattle videos, Seattle Police Department videos, age restricted. I don't know if that's going to be the outcome of that, and it all gets age restricted, or if YouTube's going to go shit. But anyway, I can't show the videos from Portland. It was batshit crazy in Portland last night. You had this guy, Sean Fite. Isn't Sean Fite the same guy who did COVID Fest last year? COVID Fest 2020, right? He set it up in Cal Anderson Park. And not only was it like COVID Fest 2020, but it was hella smoky that day. COVID bathtubs. Yep. Okay. Already going to talking about Sean Fite. And Dora, I haven't forgot about my Cold War comment. So he was down there yesterday. There were protests. There were counter protests. Holy shit. Andy No and Fox News really spinning things for like, whoa. Of what I understand, there were protesters that either disabled or took Sean Fite's PA system. They just continued to doing things. There were three between Proud Boys, mostly right-wing, far right-wing people, and Antifa, including some people from both sides, that I think people would go, oh yeah, I know who that, I know that person, I know who that person is, from both sides. And Tiny is made an appearance, and it looks like Tiny was probably calling the shots for the Proud Boys there. There were, as I said, three incidents. The first incident, I believe we shared that video on our Twitter. If you see me looking over going, what's he doing? Because I want to pull something up. That's what I'm doing. And if you know, you know. I'm sure there's people going, I know what he's pulling up. All right, let's flip this over. All right, here we go. So this was during the second skirmish. The first skirmish that happened, it really did look like it was a skirmish, which was outside of Sean Fate's fake Christian thing. There were two small groups. There was some pushing and shoving. There was bear spray. There was paintballs. It all happened right in front of two Portland Police Bureau, that's what the Portland police are called, officers, sitting in what appeared to be an unmarked cruiser. And the person filming caught it all. And seriously, the two officers in the police cruiser just looked like, I am not paid enough money to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. Like, they were in total don't know shit, don't see shit mode. That's kind of how they looked. And the Proud Boys and some of these guys in this pickup truck, who were some of the players in that skirmish, they weren't very happy, and they were yelling at the police and saying terrible things at the police. And this pic is from Saturday. Yes, this is a little Saturday skirmish. Sunday, there was this incident where, and this happened on Saturday. And so we have this amazing picture. This dude right here, if you can probably see where my mouse is pointing, that's Jeffrey Grace. Jeffrey Grace and his son are on release because they were part of Insurrection Day on January 6th. So Jeffrey Grace wasn't supposed to be doing this stuff. There's another video that was shot by Jake. Jake, by the way, lost his Twitter channel this morning. I saw some things on that. Jake is a streamer behind enemy lines. Jake's a complicated individual. There are people. I've only had 2 interactions with Jake. One of them in Bellevue, and then one very, very briefly in Portland. So I have no opinion. There's a number of people that have said that Jake to them seems neurodivergent to the point that that Jake's putting himself in situations he put into. I don't know. I am just sharing what people are saying, and I'm neurodivergent. I'm not disparaging neurodivergent people. I'm just telling you what has been told to me. I know that the one interaction I had with him in Bellevue was weird. Jake filmed a video where he is essentially assaulting somebody and using racial slurs, and what could only be called an homophobic slurs. He basically filmed himself doing a hate crime. That's not true. Well, Twitter saw it that way, and they killed his channel this morning. And this guy, Jake, yeah, because it was 4-on-1 in the video that Jake filmed of himself being involved with this, including putting hands on an individual. And this guy right here was also one of the 4 guys involved in what was essentially a felony hate crime assault. The other thing is where I'm just like, Jake's like, you're a pussy, or just, something like that. I'm like, it's 4-on-1. Dude, it's 4-on-1. You're telling the guy to walk away. Oh, and by the way, any self-defense expert, combat specialist, they're going to tell you, what do you do when it's 4-on-1? You don't stand your ground. You get the hell out of there because it's just not going to end well. Then things got really crazy last night. I can't put the picture up because we'll get the channel zinged because they're just getting really, really tight on the rules. There was an individual walking around downtown Portland last night. Find the pictures on Twitter. Who was walking around with what appeared to be a rifle. And it was a modified airsoft gun made to look like a rifle. They walked around for 20 minutes downtown like this in body armor, which, by the way, was so pathetically ill-fitting on the individual because they are really overweight. And the body armor they were wearing basically would have just protected an area like here about, because just like it was just bad. It's just bad. He was pointing the gun at counter protesters. He pointed the gun at the press. They weren't all press. Oh no, people like Sergio Olmez is like real press, pointing the gun at press. And also just pointing the gun at people that like literally lived in that area, and are just like trying to walk home or something. Like, what the hell's going on? And then apparently, I guess he called the police because he felt threatened and walked himself over and was taken into custody. He's not been charged because basically he said there's nothing they could charge him with because it was just an airsoft gun. I don't know if there's any other example of white privilege in the last 24 hours than walking around with a what appears to be a rifle and pointing it at people for 20 minutes. And the police never showed up and nobody dropped their ass. The other thing that happened in Portland last night, there were fireworks, there were flashbang grenades. And by the way, this was like the Proud Boys doing a lot of this stuff. There was a ton of bear spray. There were people that lived down there. They're just like the whole friggin' down. There were like people that lived down there in that area. What I was reading on social was it was hanging in the air like it was friggin' last year. So they really went at it yesterday. Sean fights whatever the hell he says his name is. The guy looks like Trump, the guy that's like fallen over in the back of the truck. What's the reality of this? Well, we know the Delta numbers and we know that were they dropping caltrops? I think what happened, isn't it the issue with Justin Yao is that Justin Yao deals with the microaggression of all Asian people look the same and people mistaking him for Andy No. Isn't that part of what Justin Yao puts up with? Yeah, and they are supposed to apparently, I guess in Oregon, that's why I say it was modified to look like a rifle because the orange tip has been covered up on it. Antifa was throwing caltrops. Interesting. Caltrops from Antifa. Okay. I mean, it was a shit show last night, right? It's lucky nobody got killed because what I had seen and what I had heard is that essentially Proud Boys were outnumbered, outmaneuvered. They decided to bail out. But then they were driving. There was accusations that they were driving around trying to run people over. And there's some pictures and videos of that. Yeah, Carla, that's what I was saying. I mean, again, I was kind of watching the clips and stuff when all that stuff got in there. No, the guy in the back, not the guy laying down. The guy in the back. Oh, the back. I'm looking at a much bigger version of it, so I guess maybe if you squint a little bit, that you can see that. And now things have settled down. The reality is this guy that was walking around for 20 minutes with an airsoft gun, pointing it at people, if somebody had been really armed on that, if he had pointed that at the wrong person, because remember, he wasn't just pointing it at press. He wasn't just pointing it at Antifa protesters. He was pointing it at people that live in the neighborhood. There were people that had nothing to do with anything other than trying to get home or get to work or coming back from, right, that he pointed this gun at. If he had pointed that gun at the wrong person, it could have gone south really fast. Really, really fast. And to me, it's just the height of white privilege that you have the audacity to feel that comfortable that you can just walk around and do that. So there was another thing that I observed, which I felt was ironic in watching these videos. It seemed to me that at the end of the day, when I put everything together, strictly my opinion, it almost seemed like it was less of a shit show without police involvement. It's the police should have been there to separate them. We know what would have happened. The police basically would have just been proxies for the Proud Boys. You would have had tear gas and pepper spray. It would have just been a ridiculous shit show. In some sick, twisted way, it's like they worked it out. They got it out of their system. The thing when I see these happen and Boy, does Portland and what happens in Portland expose the white supremacist roots of the Oregon Territory and how deep those roots are. That's one of the first things. But when I watch what happens in Portland there, it's just like one day. It's just going to take one person on one side or the other. And something really bad's going to happen. Now, I don't think that things are the powder keg that it was this time last year, that if something really bad happened, that this would erupt into something much bigger. And I also believe because Oregon's COVID numbers are actually even worse than Washington's tonight, I think Delta is going to become a great equalizer. I do know there are people on both sides, on the far left and on the far right, that are bought into all the conspiracy theories on the COVID vax. There are people I know that align to the principles of Black Lives Matter, defund. They're not vaxxed. They won't get vaxxed. They're convinced it's experiment, social engineering, and have had some conversations and stuff. And it is what it is. And it's on both sides. COVID don't care. 39% positive in one of the lowest populated counties in Washington State. And remember, that's through August 1st. The numbers are worse. That's the moving average through August 1. So those numbers today are worse than 39%. It's like, can you get to 50% positive in a county? There's nothing that can stop that. But I think when you get to 50% positive, 60% positive, that's even possible. The movie Outbreak comes to mind, not in this sense, Mataba virus, you're going to bleed out your eyeballs and everyone's going to die. But there's a scene in there where Casey, who is, that's the name of the character, who is played by Kevin Spacey, who apparently is... Family Guy did this thing where Stewie runs naked through the mall going, help, help, I escaped out of Kevin Spacey's basement. And it turns out that, Family Guy predicted the whole Me Too thing with him. So Kevin Spacey, creepy, gross dude at the end of the day. But he's looking through the slides, because they're doing the test on it. He's like positive, one after the other. Yeah, Contagion. Well, Pam, one of the things that Portland police demonstrated over the last 48 hours is that, they're pretty useless. Totally agree. I think it's Mel. The reason I say I think is Mel, the color of your, the color that was picked for your name practically matches the color of the background of my chat client. So I don't know. I'm guessing it's Mel. I totally agree. I don't see any lockdowns. I don't see lockdowns in California. I don't. When this rolls north, and what's happening in the South is rolling north. Another state today, state governor, West Virginia. One of the things I was surprised, West Virginia, like you would have thought, like if you had said to me, David, where do you think West Virginia is in the vaccination parade? I'd be like, man, I know what the 7 bottom states are, but I would think West Virginia is probably 8, 9, just right in that bottom rung. West Virginia is actually surprisingly a vaccinated state, but the numbers are starting to get really bad there. It's rolling. And of course, once you have Sturgis, after Sturgis, just Jesus, man, it's just going to be awful. Muppet Jesus Sean was planning to have a Jesus March at the end of the concert. He decided differently. What is a Jesus March? I saw Contagion, by the way. I've already said one of the things that I loved about Contagion is that Gwyneth Paltrow is yeeted very early in that movie. Never was a Gwyneth Paltrow fan. Actually, it was one of the things holding me back from seeing the movie. I think it took like a friend or relative going on like, oh, she's only in it for like the first 10 minutes, and that's it. And then she like pops up in some flashbacks. I'm like, oh, they kill her? Yeah, they kill her off. Oh, okay. We're the same way. We're having kind of our own lockdown. We're essentially on lockdown. We came out of lockdown. We're back to lockdown. Stephanie, I totally agree. That's my guess because it was just so spot on that I totally agree. There's probably some writer at Family Guy that had the inside track. The other thing that I find a little heartening in what happened in Portland is what we're seeing when we look at the far right forces that were there, the Proud Boys that were there. It basically was all the usual suspects. There's a few faces that people haven't seen before, but for the most part, it was the usual suspects, and the number of usual suspects are dwindling down. We know Rufio Panman, Ethan Nordine are sitting in jail right now, unlikely to get out of jail. If you have Enrique, Enrique isn't kind of a foot soldier, and he's been like invisible, basically after January 4th, like, and I still say he's so friggin' sus. So sus. I look at this. Let me pull this picture back up. I look at this picture, and one of the things that comes to my mind is this line from the movie Outbreak. If one of them's got it, 10 of them got it. And if 10 of them got it, right? And that's what I look like. And it's like the one dude in the respirator is the only one here that might have a chance, because if this is your level of radicalization, if this is where you're at, if you are in the back of a pickup truck doing your bad imitation of the Taliban, it's a really bad imitation of the Taliban. This one dude that looks like somebody just picked him up and threw him in the back, and then this one guy like holding the sheet, like what the heck is going on? And then this guy who has the bear spray, that if the reality is that this truck is moving or goes to move, and he fires that bear spray off, the air currents from the truck moving is literally just going to roll that bear spray right into the bed of the truck. And the dude that's going to get the brunt of it is this guy right here that somebody just threw in the back of the truck, and has like one leg twisted under, like here you see his shoe. So like one leg is twisted. This is just so bizarre. Well, that's what I'd say. It's like this is a bad imitation of the Taliban here. I don't know, right? And the only one that appears to have like any kind of their dignity left at all in this picture is Jeffrey Grace. The rest of these guys look like they either just got their asses kicked or they just finished running for your lives. Al Qaeda. By the way, we have a thing up on our Facebook page, if you're just seeing this picture for the first time, with caption the photo. There's some amazing captions some of you malcontents have put up there. Another thing that I put up there, I had like 200 bots stuck on my account after Jakey got big mad at me on air. That was fun. Sorry about that. Are they not going to be running very fast, Ilmar? That's for sure. Well, New Balance shoes are part of the uniform, apparently. Who's that you're talking to on the phone? It's Jake from behind enemy lines. What are you wearing, Jake? Fascist stuff? He sounds terrible. I'm sure somebody's going to tell you Malcontent was talking bad about you. It'll be big hurt. I think I don't know. There's some brand of shoes. It's like part of their uniform. Like seriously, it's just so bizarre. We're going to go ahead and we're going to wind up the stream here. I think I have covered. We've talked about local COVID. We've talked about Eileen. We've talked about what happened over in Portland over the weekend, and what a false prophet Sean Fite is, and a child shall lead them. We talked about supporting Angelica. There was one bit of good news actually I want to talk about. I was looking at the COVID data by race for King County. There was a pretty significant disparity in May of 2021 among race. There was a ton of vaccine hesitancy, particularly among Black, some subset of Indigenous, and Pacific Islanders, specifically in the NHOPI, which is Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. Pacific Islanders specifically was really behind. That gap has basically closed in King County. I know that I am no way saying that my appeal of a couple of weeks ago, where I just like, please, please, please. I don't think that moved the needle at all. But thank you from the bottom of my heart to the Black, the Indigenous, and particularly the Pacific Islander community who have put their hesitancy aside and have done what did what they needed to be do. We're all in this together. I'm vaxxed, so I mean, if it's some terrible experiment, well, then they experimented on 164 million of us. Thank you, Dave Moon. I appreciate that. Yeah, just get the vax. Stephanie, they've been doing a ton of outreach. And the numbers have gotten a lot better. I hadn't looked at the numbers in a while. I hadn't looked at them probably at least a month. And the last month in particular, they've gotten so much better. There's a story out of Wyoming, Michigan. And when I say Wyoming, Michigan, I don't mean Wyoming, Michigan, like I don't know my geography. I mean the town of Wyoming, Michigan. There is a Wyoming, Michigan. So I don't know who was lazy here, the founders of Wyoming or the people that named the state of Wyoming, but somebody punted. Thank you, Shelley. There was a Black man showing a real estate agent with all of his paperwork, and he was showing a house to a Black family. And the neighbor called the police saying that this was people that had invaded the house and that it was the same Black Mercedes that was there last month. When the police showed up, there was a Black Chevy Malibu in the driveway. I'm not exactly sure how you get a Mercedes out of a Malibu. And the 15-year-old child that was with the real estate agent, excuse me, was was like, hey, there's police with guns outside. And then they're like, oh, wow, the house has like been surrounded with police with guns. And the next thing they're being told hands up and then handcuffed and all that. And the real estate agent is like, here's all my paperwork. I have the access code to get the key for the house. Sorry, it's not COVID. Got the access code. I'm like totally losing my voice. Got the access code for the key to the house. They were handcuffed. And then the police were like, yeah, it was the neighbor. We're sorry. Police have been told they didn't do anything wrong because we're just doing police things. The view that people have, including yours truly, if the people weren't Black, the neighbor would have never called. My suspicion is this family won't buy this house. So I guess the neighbor got what they wanted. There is a hysterical video on Twitter. It's also on TikTok. I know a lot of our followers, but I found it on Twitter. I didn't find it on TikTok. If you go on Twitter, just do a search for Tigger. As in, like Winnie the Pooh. The wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are made out of springs. Go do a search for Tigger. There is a woman that goes full Karen because they have a Tigger flag hanging outside of their house. I swear to God, it's a really, really bizarre video. And I think, and I always do like a quick check. I've become paranoid because we've done these shows, and all of a sudden there's like some big news breaking story here that is coming up. Another thing that it appears the infrastructure bill, like the final version, is going to go through the Senate. It's taken its sweet time. Donald Trump is supposed to be big mad about this. He's really, really big mad. Donald Trump, I guess, has been telling people in his orbit that if this bill gets passed, it's going to hurt for 2022. It's going to hurt for 2024 because the Democrats and Joe Biden are going to be able to say, see, we were able to work in a bipartisan way and get this bill passed. If you haven't been up on current events, you know there's been several major high-profile failures of interstate infrastructure in this country. Colorado's dealing with a 40-mile stretch of highway completely buried in mud and rocks. No idea when it's going to be open. The bridge that's over the river on I-40 has been temporarily reopened, but the bridge desperately needs to be repaired. They've done a temporary repair to get it open. Those are just two. There's this other bridge in Georgia. Like the roads are falling apart, and everyone knows this, and infrastructure is as American as apple pie. Yeah, West Seattle Bridge. I want the big Kahuna bill too, and that's not going to happen. Totally, Shelley. That's why he's totally big mad. No, I always say that I look just to make sure there isn't, because there's been a couple of times I've gone off the air in the past, and then all of a sudden I have to pop back on because, whoa, there's really big story coming up. Last thing I want to talk about is weather. I can't believe that because we're under a French toast watch. So local weather here. Actually, here we go. Breaking news. Senate set to pass bipartisan infrastructure bill tomorrow. So the vote for the infrastructure bill will probably clear the Senate tomorrow. It has votes to spare, bipartisan votes to spare, and it'll breeze through the House once it's passed. So I would say that's a good thing. Let's talk about weather, and then I think I'm going to wrap it up. Dora, I still haven't forgot my comment about the Cold War. The medication's working. Jake from State Farm. We got a heat wave and we got smoke coming. Sorry, malcontent. The good news is when we say heat wave, it's not going to be June heat wave, which was just... It's just like, oh my God. So, Kelly, I don't think we're going to get that much smoke. I think Thursday and Friday is going to just be a ball of suck. I like ball of suck as a term, as a meteorological term. Tuesday, going to be a regular August day tomorrow. We might start getting some high altitude smoke in. I don't even know on Tuesday if we get enough to kind of give it the orange sky look at sunset. Probably get a nice sunset, but I don't think we're going to have that kind of warm golden hour light all day smoke situation on Tuesday. Could get a little bit, enough to make the sunset pretty. Wednesday, mid to high 80s. We're going to get a little more high altitude smoke because the wind's going to be coming more out of Canada. Right now, Canada, the fires in BC are not huge smoke producers right now. Things have been capped up there a little bit, so that's going to help. Thursday, we're going to get more of an offshore flow, and we're going to get more of wind offshore and coming out of Canada. That's going to pull more smoke in. Looks like the AQI is going to get in the yellow zone, which is moderate. So it's just going to be enough to give haze, that orange glow, but it's going to be moderate down here. So we're going to see, it'll be one of these days, you're going to see the haze. If you're super sensitive, have bad asthma or stuff, you might kind of be like, what the hell, damn it. But we're not talking anything like last year. Thursday, we're looking low to mid 90s. Thursday night, I'm a little more concerned on smoke, but it will just be on the overnight. There's a couple of reasons. The wind kind of dies down on the overnight, and the air cools, and that pushes smokes down. So I think we get that. So I think in some of the lower areas, we may get a little more smoke pooling, and I think we will get into that high moderate zone in pockets. Not widespread in Puget Sound, but pockets. The wind is going to shift a little bit more as the sun comes up. coming more from Canada than from Eastern Washington. And then I think that will hold off. The Friday temperature forecast is tough because it depends on how much smoke we get. And it kind of depends where we start off on Friday morning. There's the potential, not at SeaTac. I don't see it at SeaTac for the official 100, but there is the potential for 100 degrees on the east side. Totem Lake, the hot spots, downtown Bellevue, Totem Lake, Kingsgate, if I do the hyper local forecast. If we get a good solid blanket of high altitude smoke, we don't need the low smoke. We get, if we go more than haze and it kind of looks like the cloudy day, that is going to help to pull those temperatures down. But no matter how do you slice it, a couple of cigarettes a day worth of smoke plus 95 to 100 degrees is a pretty just gross day. Saturday, it looks like we have a good crack at breaking 90 degrees on Saturday, and then we kind of get back to normal. Looks like the smoke goes away Friday. So Friday night, I think the smoke goes away. The important thing is, this isn't 2020 grade smoke that's coming in. It's definitely not. It's more than probably what we've had, but not really, really bad. So that's where I think we're at with the smoke. So a picture of the Nisqually River by Mount Rainier. There, like Shell, there's no water in the Nisqually River? Oh my God. Actually, there's another thing I want to talk about, weather related. There's so much to talk about. I need to wrap this stream up though, legit. The other thing was this UN report that came out. There's been varying headlines on this UN report on climate change. It's an updated report that came out in 2013. Some of the stories on there are like, the end is here. And some have had a more moderated position. And there's been a couple in the right-wing press that just totally mock the report. And there's no such thing as climate change and global warming. And never mind the fact that even George Bush said when he was president, climate change is real, and anybody who doesn't believe that's an idiot. And like 97% of the people on the planet, 97% of the people now believe that it's climate change. And really the only debate that's existing among the smaller group of total deniers is how much man's contribution is in it versus just natural cycles. Ignore all of that stuff. It wasn't all bad news in that report. I know that I kind of talked about this concern that the Gulf Stream is becoming very unstable and could look at a system collapse. What's the bad news? The bad news is, I think for a lot of us, we were like, we already knew this was going to happen. This 1.5 degrees Celsius global temperature increase that all these nations agreed to, we didn't do enough. We're not doing enough, and we're not going to stop this train. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in the next 10 years. And so it's going to happen faster than what they thought. No wrapping up the stream. Sorry. Wow. The Squally's empty. That's crazy. Wow. Has anybody been out to the snow fields that are up around Granite Falls? Has anybody been out there lately? Is that all gone? Like, that's the lowest altitude permanent snowfield in the world is there. And I know that a couple of years it has gotten down to where it just kind of, I saw it once where it basically just looked like after a big snowstorm and they have that big pile of snow in the middle of a parking lot of like a big grocery store. That's about what it was down to. But it didn't melt out, so it maintains the status of large, but I'm wondering where it is. Yeah, where the ice caves are, Kellen. Has anybody been out there? Is like all that snow gone? Yeah, it's the ice caves where about once every 10 years you hear like somebody dies there I'll freely admit I've been inside those caves even though I'm not supposed to. Back to the thing, 1.5 degrees Celsius increase is we're not going to be able to stop it. And we have the computer models dialed in to this point that we know what that means. And what that means is what we've been seeing in 2021 around the world, the fires, the heat waves, the severe thunderstorms. You look at, say, the tornado activity that's been going on in places like Wisconsin, where if you read, people live in Wisconsin are like, what the hell's up with all the tornadoes? And they're under the gun again tonight. The extreme flooding that happened in Omaha, the much stronger than usual monsoons that have been happening in Arizona and in the Four Corners area, the extreme drought that is going on in Hawaii, where they have the largest forest fires going on, forest fires in Greece, forest fires in Turkey. Siberia is just burning. South America, Brazil is just friggin' burning, and it's wintertime there. The snow actually isn't really weird. But that they had in Brazil. That area actually gets snow. And it's kind of like Seattle. They'll go maybe 5 years with no snow, and then they get maybe an inch or two. And every now and then they get newsworthy amounts of snow. So that actually wasn't totally weird. They got that. We're going to see a lot more of that. That's just the bottom line. Here's the good news that came out of that report. Something that they have learned is in 2013, what the belief was, and Al Gore, Inconvenient Truth, that there would essentially create this feedback loop where carbon dioxide would just flood into the atmosphere, and we would see this line going like this, which it is going like this. And what this report said is that those models have gotten better, and they don't think that we're going to see kind of this, oh my goodness, we're going to say get to 2 degrees above and see this chain reaction that happens where the Earth just gets a lot hotter over the next 80 years. They don't believe now that we're going to see things like ice sheets collapsing, Greenland melting out, or these kind of events. So they think or Atlantic currents collapsing. So it's real interesting. This one report has come out saying that the Gulf Stream, this Atlantic current, is on the brink of collapse, and that, it could happen now. They believe would happen before 2100, and this UN report that's come out and disagrees with that assessment. And that isn't the only thing that was in there. There's a lot more that's in there. It's really not good news, but it's not like, oh my God, we're all going to die in 30 years. And there's some people that are translating that report that way, and that's not what that UN report is saying. So that one is really important. Man, Shell, I saw stuff like that when I was in Namibia. Like they saw stuff. I saw things. I saw things with animals there in drought, farm animals in drought. And afterwards, Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent was like, how could you do that? And I just looked at her and was like, I'm just doing my job. That was my job. That's why I'm here. And that's the way I just looked at it. I'm doing my job. And I think in some ways, actually filming in Namibia really got me ready for last year, and be able to kind of separate things. Shell, be informed. Don't be scared. You know what? I should have that. Like, don't be informed. Don't be scared. Or I could flip that around. Don't be scared. Be informed. I don't know, somebody needs to work on that for me. I need a marketing person. Oh, wait a minute. That's me. Shell, I know I've been telling you. I'm not going to, I'm going to get back to the Cold War thing. Here's a fun fact. If Washington State became a country, Washington State would be the 3rd largest nuclear power in the Northern Hemisphere. That's how many nuclear weapons are stored in Washington State between the submarine base and the aircraft carriers that operate in and out of here. It's a pretty amazing stat. If Washington State was its own country, it would be the 3rd largest nuclear power in the United States, behind the United States and then Russia. So the good news is, if we ever go and say that's it, we hit the history eraser button and we just go full mutually assured destruction. We here in the Puget Sound region won't know about it because all those weapon stores and the sub base and Everett they're major strategic targets, and so it'll just be, what's that flash? And that'll be your last conscious thought. So you're in a good place. Um, I remember being a kid and the 80s being told that we wouldn't see what's happening today until 2050s. I remember that too. Wasn't it David Suzuki that did all these? I remember I watched this stuff in the 80s. It was on PBS because, like, back in the day before cable, you had like 4 channels and a couple of UHF channels if you were lucky. And I lived in an area that was like that. And so then you just kind of watch what was on if you were like unsupervised kid and you were like, I don't want to go outside. Let me see what's on. You watch this thing with, I believe it was David Suzuki that did this thing. And it was, yeah, he made all these predictions for, like, 2000 and 2020 and 2050. And like, damn. And I might be wrong if it was David Suzuki or not. And I know David Suzuki is a total piece of shit. That's just kind of, why is it so many famous and influential people you end up finding out they're total pieces of shit? Why? Yes, Joy, there's a really, really big one there. Yeah, there's a really, really big one there. Oh, Lindsay, you can always count on me to lift your. I don't think. What happened to murder hornets? Are they even a thing this year? Where did the murder hornets go? Where did murder hornets go? Are we not worried about 5G anymore? Do we don't care about chemtrails? I, I there's so many. I have so many questions in this thing. Look, I will end this on a happier note for you all. I'm going to read you something. It is on our Facebook page, but I will do a auditory. I will do a reading for you, an intimate little reading. I should put up the gravy seals picture, but I won't. But I'm going to read something to you. This is a little piece of inspired writing that I had. And apparently somebody attached a TikTok video to it where somebody had similar inspired writing. If you have an individual in your circle who is maybe a little fashy, maybe a little racisty, and yet this, like you have a family member or something, so you have skin in the game, you care about that individual. I've written a piece, it's meant to be satire, to help them understand how vaccines work. I'm going to go ahead and try to read this in my soothing voice to help add to the comedic effect. Let me explain this as a way you may, in a way, let me start over. I already out of the gate, first sentence. Take 2. Let me explain this in a way you may understand. White blood cells are your immune system. They are badass cops in your body, and they're all white. They are the law. They don't care about the feelings of other cells on the mean streets that they patrol. If they see an undocumented immigrant in your body, they go, not today, not on my watch. They don't ask questions or wait for warrants. They don't care about mistaken identity or collateral damage. They shoot, and then they shoot some more. But like any police force, those white blood cells have to have good training. They can't go and beat up everything, even if it's complying. The white blood cells have to know about the undocumented immigrants it's looking for. For petty crimes like colds or a finger cut, they already know. It's just natural. Think of a cold virus or a little strep coming in through a cut as Poor people trying to move into a good neighborhood. Am I right? I mean, the police know how to handle that. They don't need any training. But for vicious gangs like polio, measles, whooping cough, or even COVID, your immune system needs advanced special training. See, those diseases are like those protesters you hear about on Fox News. That's scary stuff. That all-white police force in your body, it's in you. It's on patrol with a Your Life Matters bumper sticker and a Don't Tread on Me flag. Now, vaccine, any vaccine, gives your white blood cell cops an all-points bulletin. Hey, you see this? If you see it, this is public enemy number one, wanted dead. No alive. Alive is for liberals. Yeet. Turn off your body cams. Make sure there are no witnesses. Make it look like an accident. So you get a COVID vaccine. I know. You don't want the COVID vaccine, but hear me out. Because check out what goes down. Your white blood cells get some hardcore weekend police training down on the gun range. Forget the sidearm. If you're going to crack the engine block of a Dodge Charger Hellcat trying to run you over, you need some real stopping power. We're talking M4 carbines, riot guns, tear gas launchers. They get to use batons, pepper spray, flashbangs. They get to call in the fire department to use hoses. They get to kick it old school. They send in those canines. They straight up are using helicopters and Bearcats and those unmarked vans with the foot racks on both sides that all those white blood cells jump out of. We're talking unlimited budget training with a beer and barbecue buffet between. This goes on for like 5 to 7 days. Now, sometimes those white blood cells, they need more than just one training session. Other times, like with polio or COVID, you need to do a couple of training sessions. You know, make sure they know who the enemy really is. Some of those bacteria and viruses, they'll put on a MAGA hat, roll coal in a diesel F-350 with a 6-inch lift, listening to Toby Keith. But I'm telling you, just like on January 6th, some viruses and bacteria, they're just Antifa in disguise, trying to make you look bad. It's tough training, too. You don't have a wussy San Francisco police department inside you. Those white blood cell cops are trained so hard that you get a little sore, maybe get a fever, feel a little tired. Remember that tetanus shot you had to get back when you got a fish hook stuck in your hand and that pussy ER doctor said, you got to have this? Fucking jerk. Your arm hurt afterwards, right? This is just an exclusive white blood cell police force getting its beat down on where you got the shot. And once they got their training, they are cocked, locked, and they are ready to rock. They see any COVID trying to climb the wall, tunnel under the wall, swim in a river by the wall, it's on. They call for backup. They turn off the body cams. They make sure no one is looking, no survivors. Hey, you, stop or blow your damn brains out. They'll scream. Let's see your passport. Who's the real president of the United States? The one who got sworn in on March 4th in secret? Yo Hablo white blood cell? I don't think so. No arrest where some liberal prosecutor is just going to let them out before sundown. It is sundown. Now, COVID is smart like those gangs from China that Tucker Carlson talks about. Some COVID viruses are like, bro, I put on a hat, hide my spiky hair. Those white blood cells aren't going to see me rolling dirty. But COVID, son, they're just a lazy liberal. They're just taking over healthy cells, kicking it old school, using up your bodily resources that they didn't even pay for, and having lots of little COVID kids. Soon there's too many running around, and those white blood cells, your white police force, they go, hey, wait a minute. That's just Antifa wearing hats. And then they do what they need to do. So even if COVID tries to get smart, the police force will figure it out. But what they put in for overtime, you might feel a little sick sometimes. It's not the police's fault. It was those COVID looking for their free handouts and expecting their student loans to get paid. Now, when you have no vaccine, those badass white blood cells that keep it all in line, they never got the all points bulletin. They never got trained. You didn't build a wall. Sure, they could try to keep them without a wall, but wouldn't it be easier to keep them out if there was a big, glorious, amazing wall? Yeah, sure. Vitamin D and C and zinc, but none of that's training. That just puts more cops on the street. But you know what? They're just a bunch of untrained rookies getting paid $30,000 a year because that's all your system wants to pay them. You think they're going to be able to hold the line? You didn't build a wall. You didn't fund any training. Your white blood cell cops, you just put them under the control of Ted Wheeler and the liberal government of Portland, Oregon. That's what you did. Do you think they're going to go ask the feds for help? Come on. That means you have to go to a hospital and admit you were wrong. The next thing you know, COVID is kicking cells out of their homes, breaking into Target, not paying for groceries. They're inviting all their friends and family to come right on in because there's no wall. Then they just start taking all the good paying jobs like breathing, your heart pumping, and conscious thought. Son, you just went full Nancy Pelosi. Your white blood cell police force counted on you to back the white so you don't turn blue. You're expecting your glorious white blood cell police force to do their job with no advanced training and no wall and to keep those outsiders out with nothing. Do you know what happens then? The whole place burns to the ground. Seen it every time. Burn, loot, murder. And it happened on your watch. You can't play the police that way. Not getting the vaccine? Well, that's just like defunding the police and voting Democrat. Why would you go and do that to yourself? Thank you very much. You feeling lucky, punk? Go ahead, make my day. Shell, thank you so much for that white blood cell genocide. Thank you, New Zealand. Carla, thank you so much. Courtney, thank you so much. Kelly, thank you so much. I know I haven't done a monologue in forever. Shell's liking, Lindsay's liking this. So there you go, y'all. That's how I think you might be able to convince somebody to go ahead and get vaxxed because, you know, not getting vaxxed is like defunding the police. And again, if people would just listen to that and go, what the hell just happened to Mal? It was satire. But I do want you to get vaxxed. And the reality is that is how a vaccine works. It really does go, here's public enemy number one. It's an all-point bulletin. If you see this, get in a headlock and kill it. That is how a vaccine works. And no, you don't need to have live agent to have an effective vaccine. There are plenty of vaccines that don't have live agents in them. And there are vaccines that maybe Gen Xer here that I got that back in the day had live, and it was awful. I remember I got one shot in particular, and it was like getting the freaking COVID shot. I was like laid up for 36. And remember, when you're a little kid, right, you shake that shit off. You know, you get a little older, you cartoons, chicken soup, please. So, Pam, I did write that. That came from my brain. The pills are working. Correct. Some flu vaccines used to have live virus, and that isn't the case anymore. It wasn't polio; it was something else. I don't know if it was dip-tep or the measles, mumps, rubella. I got one of them, and it was back when there was still a little bit of live stuff in there, and I remember it kicked my ass. By the way, what I read is on our Facebook page if you want to share it. So it is written, and it's on our Facebook page. Matter of fact, I can do this. if it'll let me. There you go. This keyboard I'm using is like not designed for full-time over and over use. Okay, malcontents, I'm like way over what I want it to be. If you're not vaxxed, please, I would say in Washington State, I'm going to hold the line. We're 4 to 6 weeks away from bad. You've got maybe 2 weeks. Because remember, you've got to take the break between the shots. And then I would say about another 2 weeks out, it's Johnson & Johnson. You have to go with the J&J. I did the Cold War commentary, Kellen. I already did. I didn't forget about it. You missed it. You missed it. Kellen, I was saying that if Washington was its own country, it would be the third largest nuclear power in the world. That was the Cold War comment. I'll forgive you this time. Anyway, you have the link to the post. Be good to each other. I've really work is. We signed a really big contract at the real job with it and. Honestly, with the COVID numbers getting ready to go bad, because we've already had one customer that was doing a hybrid event and they pulled the plug today. And I'm just like, oh, here we go again. But we signed up a really, really big client. So things are actually going to be real busy. So unless we have something really big, then I'll see you all on Thursday. And so with that, I'm going to say Malcontent out. Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
He said malcontents Antifa. Fuck you.
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say.